to talk about the future. So,
That's it. After lunch is hard.
we're going to get in our spaceships and blast off, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. I am Val Vacante. I'm the Director of Strategy and Product Innovation at Merkle, a dentsu company. And we have Marco Carvalho.
Hi, I'm Marco. I'm the founder of HeadOffice.space, and we're here to show you a little bit of the future of work.
Phil Sage, and I lead Design Innovation Hub North America for PepsiCo.
And I'm Pedro, I'm the founder of ClearSale.
Come on, Pedro.
Oh, come on. Good. Thank you for all of you coming here because it's a very busy event. We are very glad that you're here to join with us. Thank you.
Okay, so we're just going to jump in here. I think this scene is pretty familiar to most of us in the room here. You know, when you think of the metaverse, we think of gaming is the first thing that comes to mind, right? We think of your Roblox, your Fortnite, your Minecraft, your Pokemon Go experiences. And really what's interesting about that is that, you know, the generation today, these things are almost as old as them, if not older than them, depending on where you skew in the Gen Z spectrum. The point is this whole generation has grown up gaming. They've grown up with mobile games, buying goods in mobile games, then kind of growing as technology has grown, as the concept of the metaverse has evolved. They're buying digital goods, they're jamming out, collaborating, having these multiplayer experiences. And so when we think about that, what does that really mean when we're talking about the future of work? And I'm going to rattle off some numbers here. A lot of people like numbers. Feel free to please take a photo if you want some cool stats to bring back to the office. Definitely encourage that. But what we really want to paint for you guys here are these key stats when we think about where we are at and projections for the future of work. So just kind of starting out here, you know, we see that 73% of teams will have folks working remotely by 2028. You know, the three big challenges, as all of us have been sort of going remote work and over the pandemic, the biggest challenges have been communication and collaboration. So finding those easy ways to do that. A sense of loneliness. So pre-pandemic, you know, there was a lot of cultural activities in the offices, whether it be sort of the Friday afternoons or anything like that. But we really, that kind of went away. And then also motivation, because you're not having that constant engagement or your buddy to sort of positively push you, no matter what your goals are. We saw a decline in that. And then also from a metaverse opportunity. I know it's like the biggest word here at South by, right? I think. But when we think about the market opportunity, you know, we're looking at an $800 billion opportunity by 2024, according to Bloomberg's analyst. And then just what does that mean when we think about Gen Z? And what that means from a work standpoint, according to LinkedIn, there's 78 million plus global Gen Zers on LinkedIn. They're the largest generation. You can see they're 143 billion in direct spending, so a huge opportunity for growth when we're thinking about those workplace experiences. And then on top of that, Gen Z, you know, is a very resilient generation, and they're very entrepreneurial. So you're seeing here 53% of Gen Z will run their own business in the next 10 years. And 65% of those who are in the workforce today, so you're talking about your 18-year-olds, your 24-year-olds who are in the workplace today, 65% of those are looking to have their own business as well. And then really rounding that out, again, that entrepreneurial spirit, that growing up gaming and sort of building worlds and everything, what does that mean? Well, that means there's a huge growth in the creator economy. So creating their own goods, their own businesses, whether it be music, whether it be art, whether it be fashion, whether it be new working tools. We're going to see a 40% growth by 2030. So with all of that in mind, we will we want to talk about with the group here, what does all of that mean for the future of work? So here's a couple of examples of how everybody here is actually creating the future of work today. And we'll revisit these later, but just to give you guys like a nice visual of kind of how companies are, and everybody here are really evolving these experiences, we'll jump into those. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marco. Is there anything you want to say before we play the
Yes.
video?
Well, when we think that the Generation Z is already 40% of the population, and the impact that they will have when they join the workforce, and what is already happening, they will dictate the tools, they will dictate the work environment, the relationships there, and how we collaborate. There has never been such a large demographic in the workforce. You know, it's been, imagine 40% will be Gen Zs. With that in mind, we're going to show a little clip. This is what you see when you log into head office. It gives you an understanding of how we envision a safe metaverse.
Thank you for joining HeadOffice.space, where we are on a mission to create a safe, friendly business networking community that builds a sense of belonging, culture, creativity, and trust for humans only. Sorry, robots. To do so, we ask that you please verify your account with LinkedIn. Your verification will help us populate your verified profile and synchronize your connections so you can join forces with your community in the metaverse, designed for the future of work. Got questions? Check out our frequently asked questions and privacy statement. See you in space.
So HeadOffice.space is on the moon's digital twin. We wanted to give a little background story and scientific facts. So we reviewed the moon, we reviewed the Earth, we put all of the Newton laws and everything, and we created a city there where we're building a community with great companies and great universities and innovation hubs, so we can build a collaborative world around innovation and the future of the workforce.
Great. And so with that, as I mentioned, everybody here is sort of involved, experimenting in this space. And so I'd like to turn it over to Pedro, and he can tell us a little about what's happening with ClearSale and how you're actually already living the future by having your team do all of their onboarding in this space.
Show that video, please.
Yeah, show the video. Everyone is the main focus.
Do you know what happens when we combine powerful artificial intelligence with an ultra-specialized team for complete fraud prevention management? We deliver the best market indicators and an excellent experience for your client. We are ClearSale, a global leader in anti-fraud solutions and pioneers in mapping the behavior and reputation of the digital consumer. We have one of the largest online behavior databases in the world, as well as a global presence in more than 160 countries. We protect electronic commerce transactions. We help financial institutions to make the best credit and risk decisions. We avoid fraud in the telecommunications and direct sales industries, and we support the insurance market with the best reliability rates. We have one of the largest online fraud prevention teams in the world, with more than 2,000 fraud detection specialists and more than 20 years of experience in the riskiest markets in the world, focused on fraud prevention for more than 4,000 active clients. And customers love us. We pride ourselves on having a 99% customer retention rate. Once they try our service, they choose to stay with us. Our mission is to promote a relationship of trust between companies and their consumers. Do like the great market leaders and count on us. ClearSale.
Wow. Thank you very much. It's a very privilege to be here. And I watch these videos, it touches me very much because when I think about the metaverse, it's the same thing about trust. And since we are being a company dealing with fraud for the last 20 years, I think when I met Merkle, and I found this a very beautiful tool for our employees first, how they can collaborate better. Because in the company, we are a very human, strong culture, and when the pandemic came, we were kind of lost. And then we had to hire 2,000 people because we are in the digital arena. So I was afraid to lose that trust that we create when we are personally. So when Merkle came, I was so fascinated, so enthusiastic, because when you are inside the metaverse, there is no race, there is no gender, there is only people there, and they are more open to collaborate. I think that's the future. The future is a trust environment, and that the metaverse will bring us is reality now.
Well, and I think what's really interesting is that, you just shared the background video for the group here. You guys, obviously, security is really important. You're a cybersecurity company. And so tell us a little bit, I put the visuals up there, we see ClearSale up there. So as you mentioned, having over 2,000 employees working remotely, tell us a little bit about the experience and how you're really creating that connection and culture experiences.
Yeah.
Like we have our person over there, tell us a little about
Yeah,
that.
it was very big challenge at the beginning. We've been working with this with Mark for more than a year. And when we brought this, people at the company said, wow, gosh, this is a playground. I said, wow, yeah, that's it. Because when you're playing like a kid, you go back to your childhood, you feel you get the connection faster. So it was very challenging to get to the people to come in and to have a working session. So that's what we decided to do. Let's step back and do it step by step. Because when you see that, people will think that that's not for me. This is childish. This is for kids.
Like, am I supposed to be working here?
Yes. And that's the biggest challenge when you talk about metaverse. Because people, they are positivity, what I have my goals, and they don't relax. And they are always the time, gosh, trying to do something. And then we decided, let's step back and do something with the newer comers. Because because at ClearSale, we take time for them to get acquainted with our cultural rights. So they step in and they are very, very happy. One comment was that, gosh, I thought there was no reality. And when they got in, just by being there 10 minutes playing around, they are very excited. So I think that's the main purpose of mixing together this, in breaking the mindset that's, gosh, today work is not just hard work, it's play, you must have passion, and that's the metaverse collaborates for that.
Well, and it's interesting that you touched on play and gaming, and it didn't really feel like work in a good way, it sounds like. But what's interesting is that when they hear from Phil, because Phil has a background of toys, gaming, play from Hasbro, and now you're in a new innovation role at Pepsi. So tell us about some of the work that you've done in the physical and digital world, sort of the metaverse as well.
Yeah, I mean it's an amazing, exciting journey when you're building a product which needs to be meaningful on a physical, tangible level, but also be powerful in the way it connects to their lives and the consumption of digital and technologies around them. So the teams that we've built in the past, who've been challenged at building that authenticity between digital and physical, there's some really great key learnings there. There's some products like our friends out in Beyblade, where they built an authentic app where you can connect 90 countries and players from 90 countries, but it still relates back to the core product that was, that we typically know where you kind of battle together on a desktop. But essentially you have great stock and great stickiness in the both kind of worlds. And so teams like them types of experiences have allowed us to say, okay, well, companies like Hasbro, companies like PepsiCo, we build on consumer and user insights, and we build these brands and these product experience around that. So in other words, okay, how do we then introduce brands into areas in the metaverse? What role does that play as the bridge to that emotional, empathy-bound kind of connection between the users and the metaverse? It's a really interesting area, and let's be honest, there's going to be a lot of things that need to be tested and learned, and we will learn through failure. But essentially, we will find really great nuggets and foundations and building blocks which will work, and I find that's both fascinating and exciting. It'll validate these environments across the land and across company initiatives.
Well, and completely agree. And actually, at Merkle, we've actually been experimenting with HeadOffice.space quite a bit, as well as dentsu in a variety of ways. I'll actually show you guys our virtual showroom.
Do you know?
If our video's working. Cool. So yeah, there's me. That's in HeadOffice.space. So we're actually going to teleport here. Hey, there we are. This is our Shop Next virtual showroom. Shop Next is our retail innovations that we say bring customer joy. This one here is called Scan and Know, and it's all about extending a retailer's existing website, loyalty program, and customer profiles to be able to go in a store, scan an item you want. If it's out of stock, you can have it shipped to your door, add it to your wish list. Right here, this is our sort of VIP checkout free experience. So same thing, no app needed. You can use your phone, scan the item you want, pay, and walk out the store. And here, I'm kind of walking over, these are just some different cases where we might use Scan and Know. And then over here, we're gonna cruise on over to our other product called Unbox It. And this is about an on-delivery experience. So if you get a box shipped to your house, you can scan a customized note. It'll launch you into the digital experience and everything from customer onboarding to join the club with loyalty programs. And right here, you guys can see that QR code. We actually put that in the experience where as we're taking people through this experience, they can scan it and actually launch into the dev environment of that. I know I'm going pretty swiftly through this environment, but just to give you a sneak peek of kind of how we are using this environment as a test and learn. We use it as an educational tool for our internal teams, because we just launched these products at CES a couple months ago. And similar to what Pedro said, our teams, they said, this is actually fun. Like they said, this is fun, I feel like I'm in a game. And it's great because we've had great retention. People are able to remember the products, some of the key benefits of the products by just experiencing this kind of environment. And the other cool part is each of those spaces, oh, here we go. That was the terminal, or gateway, excuse me. But what's great is that all of those where the presentations were, where the videos are running, all of those, I basically can use Google or Microsoft to update that content. So I can swiftly go in there myself, boom, have it updated. So when you're talking about like a test and learn, we can go up and have like different packaging ideas or different marketing messaging that we, again, can just swiftly, no code, jump in and be able to test. Cool. And then I think what I would like to show you guys, bear with me here one moment. I'll actually pause there for a moment because, Phil, I know the test and learn is really important to you. Is there anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think, again, going back to the user and the consumer target, right? So, Gen Z, I read a paper recently, a scholar, Rebecca Katz out of Stanford, and she really talked about kind of, what Gen Z is now standing for. And, they value diversity, they're finding their identity and their ability to explore different environments. There's an element of curiosity there. It's not the sake of having another environment. They have choice, right? And they have choice in order for you to experiment, build building blocks, pressure test, understand how they customize that environment. And so being part of that conversation is very exciting because it does put you in a position where you could potentially test and learn. So, and I'm sure that there's going to be abundance of companies wanting to trial in the environments in order to really understand the strength of brands, the strength of product experiences, and alike. So again, it's an exciting time, but it's not going to be smooth waters. It's certainly going to be a little bit of sprint, learn, step back, and then continue along that journey.
Completely agree. And Marco, would you like to add, in terms of the different cases you're finding that people are testing out?
Think about how hard it is if you are a Gen Z, you're getting out of the university and going to work, and you're going to work on Zoom with a remote team, and you have zero experience of what is going on. You feel left out because nobody's going to sit out and do a Zoom meeting with you and train you. So when we went remote, the newcomers in the company, they were the most affected because they don't have the relationships yet. They didn't meet people by the water cooler or by the elevator. So they are segregated from the rest of the team. And when you think that they grew up playing with Roblox and Club Penguin, which was their first metaverse back then as they were growing, they got used to work, to collaborate, to be online in such environments. And 54% of gamers, they say that they feel more, safer and they feel more ready to be open in virtual worlds than in the real world. The real world is scary sometimes.
But I think the conversation has already started, right? We've come through a pandemic, or coming through a pandemic. We've learned a lot about ourselves and how companies and individuals connect digitally, and I think, everyone's done a fantastic job navigating them waters, right? But, the user, they're already attending gigs in metaverse. They're already seeing their stars, superstars. Millions of people are coming in to view the entertainment that's being kind of curated for them. And furthermore, they're also, and again, another hot word from this particular South by Southwest, the NFT world, the amount of wallets are increasing, and also the age demographics, investing on digital assets is coming down too. So, the ecosystem, the digital currency is beginning, it's not like we're starting from scratch. There's still a lot that's being learned. It's just now that next iteration and acceleration of it.
And it's not new, right? Like people say, oh, but are you going to be collaborating in such a space? But when we think that they have already been working with their friends, battling in games and being with a remote team around the world, they are already used to that. And these tools for remote collaboration are already 20 years old. Meanwhile, our tools at work that we are using for remote collaboration, they're just a few years old. So we've actually collaborated a lot more inside virtual worlds than in remote, like Zoom or Teams, which are very, very new. And when they are used, when they go from Club Penguin to Roblox to Fortnite, and then they arrive in a company and they go to work on Teams or Zoom. It is a big change for them. And especially because, it's very cognitive intensive. Because you're looking at the screen, you're looking at yourself, it's like talking with a mirror right over you. And it's not friendly. And our brains, they work in a three-dimensional way. And we record emotions, we record content and ideas through this three-dimensional environment. And when we go all the way to just a bi-dimensional screen, and that you can look to your side, see who's next to you, or feel present, it's very cognitive demanding. And so I think that these building blocks were already there. People already, people get married online, they find their, so these type of deep connections are already happening in such environments. We just have to build a place where it's for work. It's not for having a bar party it's for you to collaborate and be together with your team.
Well, and you say it's for work, and I think the important part there is culture and creating those rituals. I think that while companies are, continuing to work remote, there are a lot of companies like trying to introduce going back into the office and having, that hybrid model. And so we can't go, and people are speaking loudly about, they can't go all the way back to the office. So what does that hybrid model look like? And I think it is having, virtual rituals, whether it be, actually, I remember there was, I think it was on another screen, but you guys had a virtual birthday sing-along at ClearSale.
Yes.
With
Yeah,
your
I think
teenagers.
that this generation, they want to be authentic. They are not from my boss. It's the entrepreneurship spirit. They want freedom to do it. And I think when they come to metaverse, they gonna feel that. They are freely to walk. I'm gonna tell you a story that turned out my mind. I was kind of working with Merkle, developing, because it's such a big job to do that, technically speaking. And it was a Friday, and I was kind of headaches, tired. Gosh, I promised Merkle that I would get into it. And then I did. It was Friday afternoon. It was my happy hour, speaking about rituals. And then I was kind of, gosh, I've never been a playing environment. I started to play it, and my headache was gone because I started to play with Merkle, and it was kind of, I didn't see myself in that environment. I was stressed. I felt like in 5 minutes that I was connected with him. So that's the beauty of this environment, because you can connect to people like in a way that they are used to it. And my daughter, I'm trying to connect with her now to get into Roblox. It's not easy. I think I'm trying to get her into head office to see, who is that? What's that doing? So, that's fun. Because sometimes it's hard for them we as a parents to connect with our kids. And it was very challenging the home office.
It was interesting this day that on the day after that we went around and he got to understand and he even have his headache gone. But in the next day he called me and he was like, Marco, I remember that we climbed the mountain, that we swam in the lake.
We ran around.
He remembered it as a real experience instead of looking at a 3D image and manipulating pixels. So you really you get immersed in the experience because of the 3D aspect, and our brains, they work in 3D.
Well, I'm sorry, one thing I wanted to add there is, Phil, I know when you were at Hasbro, you worked with the Nerf Fortnite partnership and really teaming up that product launch experience with the Travis Scott concert, experience.
Yeah, it was an opportunity again to understand where the user base was and to really kind of if the crowd is there engaged, there was an opportunity for us to curate and build a product of relevance, which would appeal to that crowd and that tribe. So essentially, it was a branded blaster, which then could be made available to that particular attendee, and it's hooked up within hours of it being going live. And again, it's a product with purpose, but also able to connect to emotionally the desire of that product, as well as attend in that in the digital space and allowing it to be present and available to be seen and to be purchased.
And when we talk about culture and connection, like that was a key cultural moment, especially in the pandemic. And I think what's interesting too about what you guys did at Hasbro was also with the partnership with Roblox as well. So when we think of Gen Z, it's all the way from sort of age 11, 12, all the way up to 25, depending on what research you look at. But broadly, that's what we're talking about here. So on the younger end of the spectrum, you are seeing, the Roblox, the Fortnite players, and so those moments, right, those cultural moments like you guys created with Travis Scott, and that you guys did with Roblox, and purchasing the physical item, getting the virtual good as a reward.
Yeah, I mean, just building on top, and I wrote it down because you're very good with your figures, and I'm not going to forget a figure. So 60% of Fortnite communities are between 18 and 24 years old, right? That's pretty staggering, right? So, and that's from the Business of Apps report, which gives sense of reference out. But it just shows that some of these ecosystems, they stretch into an older demographic, so there's opportunity for you to pressure test, brands and brand expressions against that cohort, right? So yeah, it's a very interesting platform in its own right, but it just shows the engagement and the depth that can be achieved with that age demographic and that consumer.
Well, and just like kind of on a personal note, like my son, he's actually seen some of the Shop Next experience and a couple of others, and he was telling his friends, he's like, yeah, it's like Fortnite for work. He's like, this thing my mom's working on is like Fortnite but for work, and it was just interesting. Like that was his quick to get. Yeah, exactly.
And that one thing, that's when we are at home, our kids are watching what we are doing.
Yeah.
And this is a great connection with your family, because home office is a challenge at the beginning. So now we have a motive to get together around our family also. That's interesting.
And I guess what I'd like to do now is I'll show you guys a video. It's got a beat, so if y'all
wake up a little bit, right? After lunch, it's been.
After lunch.
Get it up.
Get it up.
Merkle and I on the dentsu campus, and again, as I mentioned, we're really experimenting different ways of using the HeadOffice.space platform. So in here, we're actually able to experiment with partner onboarding or learning and development types of programs, and also just test and learn. So we're able to go in there and set up kind of test environments on the fly. And yes.
All about productivity, so you can bring all of your web tools that you use, like Google Drive, Bureau, and you can plug it in, so you have multiple ways of collaborating. And it's a persistent environment, and it's, you see, for the metaverse for work, having access control is very important. So every room, only who you invite or who you give access to is able to go, and you can get their statistics and be able to share your files in privacy. We even have rooms where we have virtual machines for the engineers work and we don't have to send them computers or having to give access to outside. So they come into the room, they work there, they leave, so it's great for freelancers, and you don't have to be sending out your links and ways for them to find.
So, and I was actually in our Shop Next virtual showroom that I showed you a moment ago with some of our engineers, and again, going through some of the testing with it, and they just kept saying, like, that was fun. Like, they didn't feel like they were in a meeting. I was like, that's awesome. Everybody left the meeting smiling, and they knew all about Shop Next. So I was like, hey, that's a win.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think that right now, I would love to just kind of open up the conversation to
That's my
everyone
favorite
here.
part.
2050.
2050, right? So we've talked about the past, we talked about gaming, we talked about kind of how everybody's experimenting at the moment. So I'm just gonna say, Phil, 2050, what does the future hold? You know, knowing what we know now, knowing what we're experimenting with now.
I mean, the relationship again with brands that we love and we've grown up with is going to be one, major part of that, right? So, of course, technology will take us beyond what we know, and we know the rate of technologies and how they mature, etc. But I think, we're going to be embracing, multiple personalities and multiple representations of ourselves. We're going to be using different environments for different purpose. And certainly then the connectivity across the globe. I mean, a project that I worked on many, many years ago where we could potentially take, someone who was maybe in a living assisted kind of home, taking them to worlds and areas where they would dream to get on a plane and descend and be on a beach in a beautiful weather conditions. There's an ability to do that with ease because the connectivity between locations will be seamless, right? So I think not just the consistency of on-demand kind of brand consumption. The ability to get things delivered on demand is certainly something that could be leveraged in the environment. Yeah, the potential is endless, but like I said, it's the building blocks now, and it's everyone in this room who's going to be part of that building block.
I'd love to jump in. So 2050 is the, when we look from here until 2050, is the journey of the Gen Z in the workplace. And their biggest goal, like the biggest challenge of this generation, is to take us to the moon. Because we need, in order to survive, we need to become a multiplanetary species. And I'm sure many of you heard, still think this is crazy, but it's true. By 2050, our, at head office, it's a city, it's called Moon Valley, where we built on the moon. And Moon Valley is built on a DAO. And the DAO's focus is to invest in scientific research to help us to build by 2050 our real, like a physical collaborative space on the moon. So we want to help Gen Zs to, and it's not just because we want to take people to the moon or be there, but the advances in technology and communication and especially empathy that we have to have in order to develop such technologies and projects to get there, it will require a lot of effort. So that's our objective. We want to help Gen Z achieve their goal and help us go beyond. And by inspiring on this like moonshot, right? We can show them that everything is possible, that they can, the metaverse is the most open and the most accessible technology, and it's the most decentralized technology. For example, our CTO is in a very, very small city in Brazil. He learned to program and everything through YouTube videos. And he's way better than all the other candidates that we selected from around the world. The person developing the land is in Ukraine, fleeing, having a very hard time fleeing his city, going. We have people, the idea is to build a global environment. So we have people developing in India, in Turkey, all over the world, because only by uniting all of this talent that it's spreaded across the world and that you don't find yet even in the best universities, because they're finding their space. And by enabling them to come to join the metaverse, they will build a world where it doesn't matter if they were born poor or not. Just in statistics, for example, in Brazil, 80% is an even higher number. 80% of the Gen Zs in the communities, in the poor communities, their dream is to become an esports player. It's not that, okay, they just don't want the esports or they just want to play games for life. No, it's because this type of environment, this type of technology and immersion is what is natural to them. And because they all grew up with their mobile phones, even in the communities, they already have that knowledge. They already know how to build. All these games, you learn how to build buildings in the metaverse spaces. So they are already trained for that. So for the first time in history, we have a new technology coming to market that the base is ready to go. the base knows how to use. It's not like the internet revolution that started from the top. Now it's going to be the first time coming from the base up. And that's why you look at how many, let's say, real Web3 metaverses. Okay, the base for Web3 is being decentralized. There are not many here in America. Most decentralized metaverses, they are from abroad. You see the Decentraland started in Argentina, Sandbox in China, and so on. So it is starting from the world from the base into the top. And that's why I believe the metaverse will change and will be the most inclusive technology today.
Well, and I liked what you said there in terms of the HeadOffice.space team, and truly just getting really great talent from around the globe, and not, hey, what degree did you get? What formal training do you have? It's just that kind of grittiness and the entrepreneurial spirit. And so it's no surprise you're getting great talent, like we saw in the numbers, right? Like growing up gaming, very entrepreneurial. Co-creation is a very big deal. And
the education part, you see, the Gen Zers, they look at us millennials, and they see that most of the millennials are now in very high debt because they went to universities and they had to spend a lot and got in debt for that. They see that the technology is changing so fast that they see millennials are not catching up. And that's why they are so entrepreneurial. They want to build, they don't want to be like millennials. That we dreamt of the world, but we didn't build it. So they are building it, and they are very entrepreneurial, and they're very hands-on.
Okay, yeah. I think that the future of work is going to be about trust. I think trust is the value that any culture, anywhere, even among animals, you see trust. So, and when we see, yesterday we were talking about the guy from the game industry, he said, wow, it doesn't look okay. I said, wow. But this tool is good just for you to learn how to collaborate. Because when you're there, I've learned that at ClearSale, we have to do a lot of things for people to connect with each other. So it was very challenging to do that. But when you come here, you see a lot of tools to building music together in an environment that is not you, it's the tools that are there. Because when you see now the weapon too, there is the spreadsheet, all these competence you need in these tools. The future, we're gonna have tools that we don't even know that exist today. And that's the way I think is going to be the future. And we're going to discover much more about how your brain works. Because our brain is three-dimensional, and you're going to be in an environment that's three-dimensional, and we're going to have tools that are going three-dimensional. That's why I think that the future is going to be more about trust.
And I really see it as being, I love what you said about trust, completely agree, especially as everybody's really more collaborative and global and trust being the foundation. For me, I think it's creativity, right? We're seeing all the different technologies evolving. You know, AI is becoming more advanced every day. So to your point of like spreadsheets and those like task-oriented things,
Yes.
you know, that need to get done, we're going to continue to develop automated ways of doing those task-centric
Yes.
abilities. And I think that, you know, those who are creative, those who create, who are resourceful, again, no matter where they came from, no matter what their background is or education, those are going to be those 2050, those are going to be the leaders of tomorrow, and that's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and the creativity comes from exchange ideas from other people. And if you trust, it's magic. You build something that's never seen before. I know that because you're dealing with fraud prevention, and sometimes we have to deal with very sophisticated cases, and we let people free to collaborate, and they found more answers to very complicated questions by collaboration. Imagine if you do that in a universe, then you speed up this kind of collaboration. And I think we're going to have tools to do that. That's why I'm very enthusiastic about it.
So,
It's almost over.
It's almost over. It's almost over. But no, we would love to connect. Please reach out to us after the talk and on LinkedIn. We do have a little time. If anybody wants to go to the mic or raise your hand, we're available to answer a couple questions for a few moments.
Yes.
So
I think if you go there. Oh yeah, if you want to stand up here.
is there any part of this that helps draw people back to the workplace? So you're a remote worker, you have all these tools and you can see your coworkers in the metaverse. What pulls you back to the office?
I'm going to jump into this question because it's a great question. So the metaverse is about connecting physical and digital, right? And connecting the office and making the office, imagine that you're going to walk into your office and simultaneously walk into your virtual office too. The idea is to always combine both. And especially when you are physically present, you can have different interactions there using the technology as well. So for example, you can be in your office, you have 3 of your staff are there with you physically, and you can have 3, 4 more that are there virtually, but you're sharing the space. Maybe they are, you know, who are remote, they are saying they feel they're on the moon and they're seeing some, the environment fully digital there. But if you are in the physical environment with technologies that are available today and even using screens, you can combine both experiences, and the person who is remote will feel that they are present there, and the people that are there will feel the presence of the remote working community too. So I think the main goal is really combining and making them like digital twins. I think the future of the metaverse work are digital twins. And that's why we started building a digital twin of the moon, because there's not much built there, so it's easy to make a perfect copy. But I'm sure that from there it will expand to the real world too.
And just to add to that, I really see, you know, as more companies are becoming hybrid, it's really important to plan out those physical and digital moments, right? So whether it be monthly meetups, whether it be even how to collaborate in the office, really trying to plan out those experiences. Some companies are saying go in the office 2 days a week, but you have remote workers everywhere, it doesn't,
Yeah.
it doesn't work. But what I would say is, again, if it's, I'm just saying monthly meetups as an example, but whatever those sort of key moments are, making sure people are that are in the office are physically engaged as well as the remote.
Just one example, I'm a classically trained industrial designer, right? So, when you're building a product experience which is non-digital, then obviously you need to be able to have something in your hands. So that will be one of them stages where you will need to feel and understand if the tooling did its purpose, or if the experience or the product or the prototype or the first of the line is in good order, right? So, yes, there is an existence for both with very specific purpose for both.
Yeah, the other thing is that, you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Thinking about like just using the VR headset and like how that can create some complications, I'm wondering what are some of the best practices you're finding for application, like types of meeting, amount of times that employees should spend on this, and like how does that all work?
I think I should go on that one too.
Yeah.
So, I think for the metaverse to work and for work to really be efficient, you have to work in every platform. So you'll be sitting in your desktop with a desktop version, working, maybe doing a busy work, but somebody comes in and they want to show you a product or something that you need to see in more detail. Then you put your headset on and you're going to have that immersion. But then, it's time for you to go, you just take that on your phone and you can go. So this interoperability of the technology is what is going to enable everybody's work. For example, we put the desktop as our main point, because it's really hard to stay all day long inside VR. And even though I love VR, it's very cognitive intensive. And you need, VR is great just for a few parts of the experience, where you want to see detail, you want to be more immersed, or you want to have, want to see lots of details. But most of the time, we will access the metaverse from our phones. I believe that will continue to be the most important part. And with the desktop is where you're going to do your busy work, right? You're going to go there and do your Excel sheet, or going to prepare a presentation. So I think each device and each way you connect will have a different purpose.
So, and one of the things that we talk about is like using the right tools for the way you work.
Yes.
So not, necessarily, if it doesn't make sense to use VR, we definitely don't want people using VR just for, VR's sake, I guess. One of the things that Phil and I and Marco's actually talked about is looking at models. So I don't know if you want to share about like the idea of looking at 3D models through the tool.
I mean, yeah, it kind of builds on my last point, really, is that, if you are working on physical product, there's a natural ability for CAD files to be able to be viewed or rotated or observed, or, again, look for fault lines and things which typically you would, have engineers and, let's say, tool experts begin to start to, come together. But, you can see, as you cast yourself into the future, in the metaverse, there's a possibility of bringing in multiple parties from different locations to serve that purpose, to identify what faults could be at hand to save time. And, again, in-person is very critical, so I agree with you wholeheartedly that, that needs to be a stable part of the working environment and the way that we work, and the nuances that are needed and the emotional read that you have, but also the ability then for you to potentially cut down on travel, potentially cut down on carbon footprint as a result of that.
Yeah.
I love what you said about not using VR just for VR's sake, so I think that's brilliant. Looking at that, I think if you are adopting it from a professional perspective, there's a lot of motivation for users of all generations and all technology levels want to adopt it. So my question is, if there's, quote unquote, elder millennials, or let's say even like, God forbid, Gen X's, or even the babies of the baby boomers, who you're trying to motivate to use this technology, yes, professionally, but let's say for that team building capacity, do you have any quick tips, any ideas, or anything that you can share in terms of adopting that technology? Because I know some people my generation, they love Call of Duty. I get stuck in the corner every time, but I'm very excited about it. If you ask my dad to do something like that, then you're just, might as well throw it in the garbage. So just any quick tips or anything that you think about adoption when it's not necessarily a professional mandate to remain within the company or something that they feel forced into?
Yeah, I can get that. I think you just answered the question. If you mandate it, it's not gonna work. I think you let people, oh, come here, just as we did when we were very excited about headquarters. We wanted everybody to be there, everybody, even younger people. Gosh, how am I gonna deliver my job? So you need to have some rituals with different tools and let it try. And the other thing, you have to have some experience from their background. Like if they, like we're talking about Merkle, grandmother, yeah, about building a church in metaverse. Then you're gonna go, oh, let's go to church together. So this is, you have to empathy. And then you not have, oh, you have to wear these. And then I think is the main thing. If you focus on the technology, you have to work focus on the experience and what you're gonna do with that person, with the relationship with that person.
Now just also to have, Pedro is an athlete. He never played a game in his life before head office.
My plane was on the track, field track.
So he had the same issues, and many people in his companies and in other places too. And what we showed them, and we started to show that actually there are gamers in every generation. The problem is just what we tell ourselves, and especially because in the last 30 years, these generations were fighting with their kids, don't play video games, and now they kind of have to say, oops, they have to learn it, it's okay. So I think from my experience, what we've been doing to help them take out this prejudice is not to put pressure.
Yes.
It's to take a first step together, and then the second step they will do by themselves. And then the funny thing is, after they are there for like 15, 20 minutes, and they know how to move already and they can get around, they start developing a sense of pride, because they thought they couldn't do that. And then they become your advocates, like Pedro.
Yeah, I was one on that.
And I think the TikTok effect will happen also. Like Gen Zs made TikTok happen, and then now every corporation, every generation is on TikTok too. So it will happen the same.
Congrats on the great panel, great discussion. I'm with Embraer X, the market accelerator of Embraer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. At Embraer, we manufacture airplanes. So as you can imagine, we're very
Wow.
scared because you can travel everywhere in the metaverse without an airplane. So
Yes.
any of you guys have any suggestions for us, please? But I have a question for you, Marco, regarding market dynamics for the metaverse.
Yes.
I'm really impressed with HeadOffice. Congrats again.
Thank you.
But how do you see this market evolving in terms of different companies creating their own metaverses? Are there going to be multiple metaverses around the globe? I mean, you have your bases on the moon, maybe somebody else will create one in Mars and multiples on Earth. So
Yeah.
how do you see it evolving? Do you think this is a market that eventually we should, have a winner takes all, a big tech owning the metaverse, like, I don't know, the oasis of player number one? Or how do you see it? I'm really curious to get your mind on this.
Well, first of all, I'm a big fan of Embraer. Congrats.
Yeah.
It's a great example of technology. And yes, Embraer will very soon bring engineers and have their prototypes being developed and tested and synchronized. So for sure, Embraer will be on the metaverse. Don't worry, people continue to travel, but planes will be more fun inside too. You know? You're not going to travel alone or be scared on your flight. But going back to how this is going to evolve, it's not going to be one for all. I think the model of social media and how we evolve today is not the model that will go forward, especially because, for example, when you have a space, when you build your space in the metaverse, it's not going to be visited by 20 million people at once in like an hour, just like in social media you can reach. The metaverse is built for more intimate connection. So it's not 1 to millions, but 1 to hundreds or even less than that, because it's for you to feel close and connected. And just like when you look in the world, how many cities we have, right? So virtually will be the same thing. We'll have different metaverses with different privacy settings, with different costing and different, it's about the matter. There will be, just like how many communities we have today. Each community will be its own metaverse, and it will have its own engagement rules. Like for example, in our metaverse, we're focused on innovation and collaboration for global citizens. We want the entire world to develop together. And it's this Silicon Valley open to the world mentality. And that's our focus. You look at Decentraland and Sandbox, they're focused on developing game experiences for the masses. So it's a different kind. You will have, like, we were talking Melody here from PepsiCo. They're building a metaverse for music, right? So there will be several millions, and the metaverse will be the internet exponential. If what we saw that the market of the internet today is, it will be exponentially.
Yeah, and I would like to add, because when we started to do it for ClearSale, and when the thing will start growing, and Marco said, gosh, we need to open to other companies, and that's the beauty of it. Yeah? Now I got to know Val, I got to know, we are neighbors. That's fantastic. That's the beauty of it. The collaboration between companies, being in a place, that's the best part. That's when you say metaverse about collaboration and trust.
Decentralization.
Decentralization. So that's where you meet. Let's meet there.
Thank you. Congrats.
Thank you. No more.
I think that's the end, but thank you guys so much. Please, again,
Yeah, literally.
Ah, mas você vem também, pô.
Vem, pô, vem tu.
Pula
Jump
aqui,
in.
Esse tá filmando. Pega aí, Michel.
Awesome.
Stay up a little bit for you because it's taking the grace part.
Alright, ready?
Yep. Change the positions and take a lot of photos.
Got it?
Yeah, I took more than 10.